Hey, Chris,
Yeah, Fred.
what's a Mason?
That's a really good question, Fred.
You've reached the internet's home for all things Masonry. Join Chris and I as we plumb the depths of our ancient craft. From the common gavel to the trowel, nothing is off the table. So grab your tools and let's get to work. This is On the Level. Well, once again, we are back on the level with Fred and Chris. Brother Chris, how are you?
Hey!
If you keep that up, that's going to be your signature intro, man.
Yeah! How you doing?
Woo! I'm good. I've been a little sick this week, just getting over it. Employed all of my natural cures, and of course, as I always do, I'm good to go for a couple of years.
Oh, you get that? That was your
my 2-year little thing that comes through every once in a while, and I'm good to go. I don't do medicines. I don't do medicine doctors, hospitals. I don't do any of that stuff. So I don't need it because I'm healthy, man.
Well, you do a lot of healthy eating and exercise.
Yes.
So you do a lot of other stuff.
Yes, I do.
That people don't want to do, which is why you don't get sick, right?
That is correct. You have to get sick about every 2 years because that is the design feature of the human body is to re-up all those immunities that are out there. And it re-ups them, resets them, and sets you going, in your environment for the next couple of years. If you maintain your health, that is. But if you eat garbage and don't exercise and, smoke cigarettes, hang out in bars, and,
cigars
that kind
are
of
okay,
stuff.
though, right?
Cigars are fine.
Yeah,
There's no
totally
problem with
fine.
cigars. Let's not get too healthy.
Whiskey's okay. And
Once in a while,
Once
I'm a
moderation.
big fan of a premium whiskey. Life's too short to drink cheap whiskey, in my opinion, and smoke cheap cigars. I think that's the defining line, in my opinion.
what? That's okay. That's the healthy, unhealthy, acceptable boundary.
Correct.
Fine cigars and whiskey are okay for you.
That's right. So, Master Mason degree number 4. Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know. We're number 4. We're not even halfway through the manual, so I don't know how far this thing's going to go.
Well, we're getting into the second half today, I think.
I think so. Yeah.
So I would guess we'll have as many on the back half.
It's not really broken into halves like that.
No,
but
no.
if you break it into quarters, which is what I did, part 1, because I figured we'd do 4 parts, and of course, part 1 became part 1 and 2. Part 2 became part 3. And now here we are in part 4.
Plans are for other people.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. We don't plan this.
We wing stuff.
We would have to hire actual professionals to be able to plan this too far out.
Yes. And,
We don't do that.
based on the income of this show, that will not be happening.
That will not be happening. No, sir. No, sir. And thankfully so. We
Yeah.
bravely plow into the future, not knowing what we're doing or where we're going.
We don't need no stinking professionals.
That's right, my brother. Perhaps it might be Talk Like a Pirate Day.
Oh, I thought it was Irish in the beginning and it turned pirate at the
Well,
end.
most pirates were Scottish and Irish. So we're on 5.12, 5.12 in the Florida Mentor's Manual. So it's this is GL 217, revised in 2008, Florida Masonry Mentor's Manual, which is a publication that every Mason should know. Every Mason should have a copy of it, and it should be dog-eared. It should be highlighted. It should be written in. There should be tons of notes in it.
Yeah.
And I'm not just saying that because mine is. I'm saying that because it's worthy of your time to get into, because it does give you the basic foundation of what it is you're doing here as a Mason. So I encourage every brother out there, and thank you for all the emails from the brethren out there saying, yes, I've never opened it up. And now I have, and you guys are right. This thing is answering a lot of questions that I've been wondering about, and the darn thing has been in my drawer for the past umpteen years. So good on you, brother, if you're out there and you're pulled it out and you're in there doing the study, because you know what I say it all the time: know what you believe and know why you believe it. Otherwise, why bother?
Agreed.
Yes, sir. So do you want to just dive right in, brother, or do we want to continue our clever banter?
No, let's do this.
Are you sure?
People need Master Mason discussion, and they need it now.
And they need it now. Just real quick, we have been asked to put together a esoteric teaching night, which is going to take place this Saturday at Chris's house in his beautiful backyard, a palatial and stylish backyard. Obviously, his wife put that together.
Obviously.
Yes. And I'm pretty excited about that, too. And just real quick, when we say Masonic esoteric teaching, this is what we're talking about right here, guys. This is it.
That's what we're doing.
This is, a lot of people want, I think I said this in the last episode, but it's worth reiterating. A lot of people want to add to the Masonic esoteric teaching, but really all it is it's teaching those parts of Masonry that you can only get as a Mason within Masonry. That's what esoteric means. It's a source of knowledge that you can only obtain through a specific person or group. So that's the esoteric teaching. You can only get it as a Master Mason. You can only get Master Mason teaching within the lodge because those are our secrets, and our secrets are, in fact, the esoteric teachings. So that's what it is. Nothing way out there. And that's, the Alex Joneses and Glenn Becks of the world, they love to speculate on what our esoteric teachings are. And they always add goats and blood and kind of weird crap. But if you're sitting out there and you're an EA or a fellow craft or a Master Mason, please know that when we say esoteric teaching, we're talking about Masonic teaching within the guidelines of our craft.
Yep. Esoteric in Freemasonry is specifically defined as anything in the 3 degrees.
Anything within the 3 degrees, right? Yeah. And much of it is secret. And I've said it before. I love that fact. That is what makes it kind of special and kind of fun. So, anyways, all right. So we did banter. We did helpful words of wisdom.
That's right.
If I do say so myself.
Palatial.
And
word.
Palatial. Word of the day.
New
palatial.
Word for me.
That's right. If you saw Chris's backyard, it has a waterfall, just so you know.
Palatial. Resembling a palace and being spacious and splendid. Wow.
There you go.
Palatial.
There you go.
That's a huge compliment.
Huge compliment to your wife, indeed, who obviously put that thing together.
Obviously.
Yes. Okay. All right. So 512, page 22 of the Grand Lodge, Florida Grand Lodge Mentors Manual. The Hiram. Why do I have a problem?
Hiramic.
The Hiramic legend. I don't know why I have a problem reading that, pronouncing that word every time I go to pronounce it. The Hiramic legend is the title of this particular paragraph. It's 3 paragraphs. So I'm just going to go ahead and read the whole thing, and then we'll go back paragraph by paragraph, which is kind of our way. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
The Hiramic legend is woven around Hiram Abif, the skilled artificer who was the son of a widow of the tribe of Naphtali. There is no character in all of Freemasonry whose life story is so dependent on tradition as this celebrated architect of the temple. The earlier accounts of this artisan and builder will be found recorded in the first book of Kings, chapter 7, verses 13 and 14. His coming to work on the great temple at Jerusalem is mentioned in a letter written to King Solomon by Hiram, the king of Tyre, and recorded in 2 Chronicles chapter 2, verses 13 and 14. Each of these references will enable the new brother to have a clearer understanding of Hiram Abif as a figure in history. Freemasons refer to him in several ways: as Hiram the Builder, as the widow's son, but most often as Hiram Abif. The word Abif means his father or my father, and the name would be correctly translated as Hiram my father. The my father being a term of great respect. He was regarded as the father in a patriarchal sense of all his workmen on the temple. A dramatization of this legend is done to teach the magnificent lessons of fidelity. It should be understood that it is a legend and not factual. Both Hirams are recorded in Holy Writ, but one cannot find any trace of the legend which is used in our Master Mason degree. So that's an let's not get caught on that bottom paragraph. Let's go back to the beginning. It's woven. The legend itself is woven around Hiram, our father.
Yes. He is the main protagonist of the story. He's the one that is being represented through our candidate in much of this degree. And I think it's important, that last little bit at the end is important to Masons everywhere, because this is a legend. We're not trying to say this is historically accurate story.
Correct.
You don't have to go on a pilgrimage to Israel to try to find the lost documents of Hiram Abif's presence there or whatever. I think it was Mackey that said we start to look insane when we try to prove that any of these stories are true.
Right, yeah.
So don't waste your time with that. These are meant to teach us moral lessons. Well, the characters might be familiar. Hiram Abif is a name you might have heard in the New Testament.
Old Testament.
Old Testament, sorry.
The Book of Kings and the Book of Chronicles.
Yes, it's mentioned in Chronicles and Kings. Who he is, everything that you just mentioned came directly from the Old Testament.
Yeah, I read it this morning. It's a brief description of a man that was hired by King Solomon, and he was known throughout the region as a man who knew how to work in all manner of temple building. So this was a man who was clearly up for the job.
Yes. And his integrity and honesty make him a good example or exemplar for Freemasonry.
Correct.
And about how your personal integrity and reputation should come above anything else, including the defense of your own life. Put your integrity first, because that will last forever. Your life is going to be short anyways, but your integrity and your honesty and your legacy should last forever, which is a good moral lesson to teach us. But as far as Hiram Abif himself, all we know is really what Freemasonry is telling us, and most of it's coming out of the Old Testament. So he's still kind of a vague figure. We don't get much history or background on his life or education or any experiences he's had. He's just kind of a object that's put in to fill this role so that we can have these experiences and discussions around this drama that's going to happen around him.
Right. So we don't know who his mother was.
We know that she was from the tribe of Naphtali.
Naphtali, correct. One of the 12 sons of Jacob.
Right.
Right.
But she doesn't get a name.
She does not get a name. He's known as the widow's son.
Right. Which obviously his mother wasn't a widow, right?
So did Hiram, king of Tyre, is the one who recommended him? Or is that his supposed father?
I think both.
Both, okay.
According to this story, we're told that it is his father.
Okay.
He comes from the tribe of Tyre, because that's who his father was.
So he would be Hiram ben Hiram. That means Hiram, son of Hiram.
I think you're right.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And they like to keep it in the family, just like today.
They always did. That was very, very strong. All the trades, if you will. I don't know if they called them trades back then, probably. But no matter what your father was, you were to be that. You and your brothers would be raised up. If you came from a fishing family or a fisher, your father was a fisherman, you would be a fisherman, i.e. most of the apostles, for instance. Because of that time frame, artisans, carpenters, which were we think of carpenters as guys that work in wood, but actually in ancient times, carpenters were mostly actually worked in stone and wood and all manner of building. And actually, when I started out in my career, I was a carpenter. I started out as a carpenter, and back then, the carpenter was the general contractor. So I apprenticed to be a carpenter who was in charge of the entire building. So that's the way it used to be. The carpenter would work for the architect or the owner and he would be in charge of all of the wood construction of a building, but he would also be in charge of the subcontractors that would come in, and he would see the building to the very end. It's not that way anymore. Now we have to have state licenses and insurances and all this garbage that ruin the trade completely, but that's a different story.
I guess these people answered to one person, and that was God.
Yeah, well, my point is that there was a time when the guy in charge was skilled in the 80s, so long ago. It was the guy in charge of the building was skilled in all manner of the building. We used to have a designation known as a master builder, and that master builder most of the time started out as a carpenter, and he was skilled in all manner of the building. He knew what he was looking at. He wasn't a plumber, but he knew how it worked. He could see it when it was wrong. And that made him the one person that could see the building from beginning to end. Today, that is not the case, unfortunately. Anyways, getting back to our text, Hiram Abif was such a man.
Yeah.
The building that he built, nothing today can compare to it, only because of the technology. We build buildings today that look like that building that he built, but it's nothing like it. It's nothing like it. It's a facade of it, using modern materials that made it very easy for laborers to do what used to have to be done by skilled craftsmen. And it's a whole different type of building. But this was a man who was skilled in all manner of the building trade for the building of King Solomon's temple. No small feat.
Nope. But he was a skilled worker. He was obviously capable of managing large projects because the number of people that worked on this was pretty intense.
Right.
And they used some of the best materials that they could gather, and they did it in a very difficult way. It wasn't done in a way that was meant to be quick or easy. It was, they harvested the materials and prepared them in a way that would have taken probably 3 or 4 times as long to actually construct the temple because of the way that they did it. And they were doing it out of respect for their God.
Right. Yeah, there was here in 2 Chronicles chapter 2, like it said in the book there, it says King Solomon assigned 70,000 what they call here is bearers, burden bearers, but that would be EAs, correct? So there was 70,000. And then, going to go backwards. 70,000, 80,000, and 3,600. Right? So the 80,000
fellow crafts
were fellow crafts, right? So we had 70,000 EAs, 80,000 fellow crafts, and 3,600 overseers. Master Masons. That's pretty cool. And I want to get off of the actual literalness and get to that esoteric side of it, of what it means. What's the story behind the story here? Right? Because for me, it's the temple that I'm building is the temple of my body and life. That's the construction project that I'm currently working on within the confines of Masonry.
That's the allegory of Freemasonry.
Right.
And you use working tools to build your temple. Yeah.
And I once you start getting into all the ramifications of that and you start studying it, it really got my interest because I'm a practical person like that. Give me a set of rules.
It's like, I
right.
can do this.
Give me a blueprint. Give me something to work from. This gives me something to work from. But the thing is once you take it to the next level and actually start applying it into your life through memorizing what the tools mean, studying what the tools mean, and then memorizing them. And then when situations come up in your life and you begin to use it, it's pretty amazing.
It really is.
I just find that our craft, being very prevalent, the speculative side of our craft being very prevalent at the founding of this nation makes sense to me because, there were men who were, sea captains at 17 years old.
Yeah.
These were young boys, but they had the intellect the training, the integrity and strength and courage to tackle, things that 60-year-old men have trouble with in this day. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I was talking Sunday night with my son and his friends. So these are like 18-year-old kids.
Okay.
And we were just talking about life. And we got to George Washington, and they were saying he's the greatest president. And my wife said, he was a Freemason, right? And
wow.
The kids were like, what? And she's like, yeah. Like, Chris and I went up to Arlington. We went to the Masonic National Museum for him. It's like an entire museum in, just outside of D.C. dedicated to his Masonic life. And they were like, they don't teach that in school.
No, they don't.
And then she started naming all the other Freemasons that were involved around George Washington's time with the foundation of the country. And she's like, don't you realize that you're living in a Masonic experiment? And I was just like, who is this person?
Who is this woman? I should marry her.
Wow. Rubbed off on her somehow. Or she's done her own research. I don't know.
Hey, she's a smart lady. I wouldn't doubt it.
She was blowing these kids' minds because they'd never been told this.
Right.
They had no idea of how tied into our country Freemasonry really is. And the people that they worship and esteem as these great people were hardcore, lifelong Freemasons.
Absolutely.
Active in this time.
And you can't say it wasn't prevalent, because if you look at the way the streets are even laid out in D.C., where the monuments are, which monuments are where, it's all Masonic, bro.
An episode on the formation of the country and Freemasonry's ties.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of guys out there who have done some extensive study on it. Mm-hmm. And I'd really love to get them on the show and just get them to, go deep with us on that. And I'm sure everybody listening is saying, yeah, do it. We are going to do it. We are getting, after Grand Lodge coming up, here's a little informational break. After Grand Lodge coming up in towards the end of May, 28th, I think, May 28th, we have a booth there, and we're going to do some interviews of the Grand Line folks who were gracious enough to agree to let us interview them.
And some of the state chairmen.
And some of the state chair, and a lot of great men in our craft here in Florida.
Yeah.
We've been privileged to be able to interview. After that's over, we'll have the tech set up, and we'll be set up to go into season 2 of the On the Level with Fred and Chris show, and we'll be able to bring on more guests and begin to develop that side of the show. This being season 1.
And season 2?
In season 2 coming up. That's right. Probably June. I think we'll call June season 2 here coming up. Anyway, back to Hiram Abif. That last paragraph, man, let me read it again, and let's talk a little bit about that, all right? The dramatization of this legend is done to teach the magnificent lessons of fidelity. It should be understood that it is a legend and not factual. Both Hirams are recorded in Holy Writ, but one cannot find any trace of the legend which is used in our Master Mason degree. So now we're talking about the actual degree, the second part of the Master Mason degree, correct? Yes. That's what they're referring to, which we can't really go too deeply into here on the show because that's, part of our degree work. But none of that can be found anywhere. And according to the manual here, it is legend.
Right. It is legend. It is not fact.
Yeah.
And we're telling people, I guess they're getting this education after their Master Mason, but we're telling them, hey, we aren't silly, okay? This is a story. We get it. Don't try to go telling everybody that you know some information they don't have about the history of their Bible.
Right.
They're not going to like it, and you're going to look like a silly person. And really, the morals are just for you as a Mason, too. You're supposed to keep the whole world of mankind in darkness regarding them.
Correct. Right.
Until they get them the same way that you're getting them here. So this is just for us, even though this is published and you can read it. And if you go on Wikipedia, you can get all the stuff about Hiram Abif that, we talk about. But again, that's our obligation not to talk about these things in public. But what we can talk about is Hiram Abif rode with kings, really.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about Solomon, the wisest king, right?
The wisest and most wealthy
And most wealthy.
monarch in world history.
Didn't he have more wives too? Wasn't he pretty?
Yeah, that wasn't the good
Had a
part. Though.
significant
Yeah,
number
that
of
wasn't the
wives.
wise part. That
Wasn't
was
it
the
in the
unwise
hundreds?
part. He had 600 concubines.
600.
Now, you got to keep in mind that it wasn't like he, Tuesday was number one, Wednesday number. It wasn't that he
You'd
visited
only
them.
see each one
Here's-
twice a year.
Here's the brutal truth. If the king had an indiscretion with a woman, there's one of two ways it could go for her. She could be brought into the king's home and made part of the harem and or the part of the king's house, or she could be rejected, which would mean death and or poverty for her. So King Solomon, being a good king, brought them in. So this is possibly one reason why he had so many of them. But King Solomon did not go and visit. Let's do that in air quotes, visit these women on a regular basis. He had one encounter, most likely, with them. And in order to protect them from society branding them and, ruining their lives, he brought them in. That's one opinion on why it was like that back then. That is not to say that King Solomon was in the right here. What he did was wrong. He's a man. He's a very powerful, very wealthy man. So anybody out there who thinks they could do it, go ahead and give it a try. I think all of us would struggle in that area. But he did also have wives, actual wives that he married. And there were a lot of those too. And obviously the difference between a wife and a concubine would be the wives had children, possibly, and or he would visit them and have intimate relationships with them on an ongoing basis, which probably would have frustrated the daylights out of his original and or first wife, whoever she might be. So obviously, King Solomon went the way of his father David when it came to family relationships. His father David did not do well in that area either. But Solomon was born out of an adulterous relationship that went terribly wrong between his mother Bathsheba and his father King David. So let's just move on from there. But yeah, it used to concern me, the Old Testament biblical accounts of these men, these leaders of the faith, that thread that runs through the entire thing from beginning to end of these men. It used to concern me. And now that I'm older and looking back, it's a source of great comfort to know that these men, David, Samuel, Abraham, they were all flawed men just like us. And they appealed to the mercy and grace of God. That's what it's always been about, is crying out, calling out for grace and mercy, and being honest about you and me being men. And I kind of like this deep voice this Colt is giving me, man.
Sounds a little Michael Keaton Batman-ish.
Yeah.
I'm Batman.
Until Christian Slater ruined the Batman character, I think Keaton did a great job, man. Yeah.
Christian Slater.
Yeah.
No, I don't think he was ever Batman.
Oh, sorry, not Christian Slater. Who was the last one?
Oh, the last one was Val Kilmer, I think.
No, Val Kilmer did a great job.
Oh, you liked him?
Yeah.
Oh, you're talking about, the guy with this tequila brand.
Yeah.
Yeah, George Clooney.
No.
No?
George Clooney as Batman? That would be really bad.
Well, most recently you got Ben Affleck. Is that who you're talking about?
I don't know. I'll think of it.
There's so many Batman.
Let's move on. The
All
one, he really ruined it. Anyway.
Sorry. There's been so many.
There's been so many Batmans. Maybe, never mind. All right,
I have
so
a whole book on like the philosophy of Batman.
I'm
on
sure
how you can live your life by his teachings.
you know what?
Interesting stuff.
You know what? Let's move on.
He's a little like Hiram Abif. Segue from Batman to Hiram Abif.
Of course.
But no, this guy, this craftsman, right? He wasn't necessarily holding any office anywhere. He was just a skilled craftsman that was really good at managing workmen, is working with the wisest, greatest, richest king, definitely, that was alive at the time, and Hiram of Tyre, who was the king of the Phoenicians, basically.
Right.
And man, that would have been some incredible company to be a part of. For a
Sure.
person that's not a political person, he didn't grow up, spoiled and rich. Maybe he did. But as a craftsman, you would think that he had to have had a life of labor.
He absolutely did, because if you look in the ancient ruins of that region, those cities and the temples, especially the temples, were massive, man. And these were huge feats of work. And Hiram Abif, Hiram ben Hiram, would have been commissioned by his father, the king, to build these things. So it's no accident, that this guy rose in prominence as an expert artisan and builder. So much so that the greatest king, the most wealthiest king in the entire realm of men, recognized him and called for him to come and do this work, this very important work, that my father originally commissioned me to do. So whoever the real Hiram Abif was, he was a badass, man. He was well known, very successful, and I know we're kind of beating this one to death, but the man was certainly, I don't know what comparison we could, any comparison to, there aren't a lot of great men or institutions left to compare things to anymore. But there was a time when, you got called up by a president, of the United States. It'd be a high honor. I don't know if that's true anymore, but there was a time,
not.
Let's just say like Eisenhower, President Eisenhower.
Yeah.
I think he was a great man.
Yeah.
And a great president, and if you were somebody of notoriety and you got called up to do a work for him, that would be a high honor, and that would show that you were a man of great integrity and of great skill, Yeah.
Must have excited people of the time.
Right.
It's like, hey, we've asked Michael Jordan to be the coach of this new basketball team.
Right.
Everyone would be like, what?
What?
This is going to be incredible. This man is a legend.
Right. There you go. That's the analogy right there. So who is, without giving away any trade secrets, who is Hiram Abif today? Can we talk about that? Or every Master Mason out there should know the answer to this question. So let's not say it.
Well, there's things that are written in the Old Testament that talk about who he is to an extent. But to you and I, he means something more.
Right. So today, I was when I first became a Shriner, one of the men down at the shrine asked me that question.
He did.
Mm-hmm.
Who is Hiram Abif?
He said, and because he's one of the Shriner guys.
Did you answer, I am Hiram Abif?
I did.
Yeah.
I said, I am. You are. We are Hiram Abif. And I was kind of trying to keep that a little bit of a secret, but you let the cat out of the bag.
Well, no one
it's
ever
not a secret.
taught
it's
me
not,
to
right.
say that. That's not anything I received in the ritual.
No.
But it seems like a logical answer to
It
that
is a
question.
logical answer. We are. That's who we are. We strive to be a man of integrity.
Yes.
Who would give his life to maintain his own integrity.
Yeah.
That's the man we strive to be. When, being raised to the sublime degree of Master Mason is about raising up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're touching very close to the limits
skirting
here.
the line. But
yeah,
it is about making yourself something different than you were before.
Right.
Like passing through a really physical experience that leads to a very spiritual state of being.
Sure.
I'm doing good.
You're doing great.
And I think that's a really powerful part of the degree work is transitioning from the physical to the spiritual, which is really a lot of what this section of the degree is trying to get our minds focused on.
Right.
Is that particular part of your life, which we're all going to have to experience sooner or later, the transition from the physical to the after, whatever that is.
Right.
So what's important during that transition is the content that we're covering. The works you've done in this earth, the decisions you've made, the impacts that you've left behind on other people's lives. These are the things that concern us while we're here. Have we left a positive impact on the world and on other people's life? That's charity. Have we done things for the world that we'll be remembered for when we're gone? Or did we waste our time? Just smoking
Spinning
too
our
many
wheels.
cigars and
Yeah.
drinking too much whiskey like Fred
And not handling our responsibilities as men. And I think that's we were put here for a specific purpose, and that is we are providers, protectors. We are, we're supposed to be leaders.
Yeah.
And of course that's lacking in the male side of the equation in this country anymore. And
worldwide, I think.
Worldwide. And I think Masonry has a lot to say about that. And I was at an event on Saturday, and I was standing next to the worshipful master of the Venice Lodge. And I just really like this young man. And he gives me hope. Men like him. There's a lot of young men like him.
Yeah, he's only in his 20s, I think.
Yep. And I believe he's D Malay.
He is.
Came up through D
Malay.
Malay. And I think that if you're out there and you have an opportunity to support your local D Malay, do so. Get involved. I am seriously considering that myself, to get involved, because I think that Masonry has something to say about, raising up young men of courage and integrity, of that quiet warrior, that dangerous,
the rock in the sea that you can cling to.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
rough out
Yeah.
there.
Because that's what we need. We won't make it with that. And I'm not trying to be misogynistic or chauvinistic or anything like that. Don't get me wrong. We all have our role to play in this world, but it is obvious that when men fulfill their role as leader, as the one, and when I say leader, it's the true. We've talked about this before. The true aspect of manliness, of being a man, is being one who's willing to sacrifice his own desires for the benefit, of his family or his community or his nation.
Well, that means Hiram Abif was the manliest man.
He was the manliest man because he put aside everything in his life to be the one the king needed him to be, to build the temple. He was useful to the master, completely useful to the master, and his integrity, courage, went before him, and it went after him, and it ended up, well, we can't even go there right now.
Well,
but if you're a master mason, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Oh, it ended. Martyrdom is something that every great story or tragedy has in its literature, right?
Sure, every right.
Shakespeare, any kind of
great story has the tragedy and the coming out of the tragedy. The overcoming the odds.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So we're telling the story, and it does include some bit of tragedy to help illuminate the point of the story, which is, with great responsibility, sometimes you have to make great sacrifices.
That's right.
To maintain integrity. And that doesn't matter who you are, what station you have. This person in our story has one of the most valuable things at the time that you could have had, which is the secret word of a master mason.
Right.
And, it's well known that he does not give the secret word to people that try to extract it from him in an illegal manner. And so it's lost to time. And other degrees in Freemasonry try to resolve that part of the story. I think both the Scottish Rite and the York Rite, you can be conferred degrees where they claim to have recovered the lost master's word.
Right.
And so you get it. And they both go around telling people, well, if you want to get the lost master's word, join our appendant body.
Yeah.
You'll get it in one of these degrees.
Should I be skeptical or should I investigate further? I don't know.
Stories are, I think like everything in Masonry, the other degrees that you get aren't meant to be taken literally or historically.
Right.
So if you just receive them in the spirit that they're meant to be given, it's an awesome experience.
Sure, I get that.
Awesome experience. Really does leave an impact on you and really kind of enhances the points that you got in the first 3 degrees, which is the morality and the,
right.
responsibility. So it's all kind of just a continuation of the same thing, but it's fascinating to hear the sequel. You don't want to hear part 2 and part 3 of the movie. If it's good, keep watching.
Yeah, and if you do, remember it's a commitment. It's a major commitment, and I'm thinking about our right worshipful heart out there who has his Masonic journey has taken him to the very pinnacle.
Yes.
Of our craft, and
we'll have right worshipful heart on.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's taken him his entire life to do so. This did not happen overnight for him. I don't know how long he's been at it.
Two-time worshipful master from 2 different lodges.
Right.
Twice district deputy. District instructor 3 times.
Right.
33rd
33rd
degree. He's been president of everything, and I know he's in many of the important degrees in the Scottish Rite in the Valley of Tampa.
Yep.
And honestly, he's been invaluable to me this year.
Absolutely.
Invaluable to me.
Yeah.
In what I'm doing in the Scottish Rite Club and the Master Mason Association and in our lodge. I mean, he just has been a huge asset.
Well, I think he's come alongside you as your mentor and guiding you through this. It seems to me like...
I don't see it that way.
No?
I think he'd do this for anybody in my position.
Oh, yeah. No, I agree. I agree.
I
But
don't think he's taking me under his wing like, you're going to be the next Barry Hart kid.
No. I don't think that's what mentorship means, though. That's not what that means. I think he's willing to... be available to you whenever you need him.
Yeah.
Which is part of the deal. And you couldn't have a better person.
I'm in desperate need of that too.
Right. And I think just that's what makes him, that's probably what got him that 33rd, which is conferred upon a person. It's
we'll
not
have to ask
earned.
him about that.
Well, it's that attitude
what he thinks got him there.
He always says the same thing, just call me brother, and you shake his hand and he's like, and I'm always trying to say, I'm always trying to get it all right, because I'm like that, I'm weird like that.
Yeah, of course.
And he's like, just call me brother, man, and I think it's that attitude, that willingness to serve. Here we go, talking about a brother, over talking a brother here, but I don't know if you can over talk this brother, but anyway, I think that's probably what got him to where it is that attitude of humility, and dedication, and I started in Masonry much, much older in my life. I don't think I'll ever be able to get that far, but
never say never.
I'm never going to say never, but for me, and I've said this before, I'm going to grow where I'm planted right now. There's so much to learn where I am. Yeah. I'm not going anywhere until I know this stuff, what I'm supposed to know, before I go ahead and go any further. You want to go to the next one?
You have a huge advantage on a lot of people your age in Masonry.
Yeah, no, that's right.
Because you sit and talk and think about this often. So
right.
You're probably, like I always tell people in Masonry, it ain't the years, it's the miles, and you're putting some miles on yourself.
Yeah, no, that's right. That's
pretty
right.
quickly.
It's like anything else, if you like it, if you love it, then that was interesting. If you like it.
Oh, that's my watch.
Oh, your watch is talking. Your watch just said, I'm sorry.
Mind your business, watch. Sheesh. Always talking.
But don't worry, folks. Those devices don't listen to you. They don't listen at all.
I've totally given up on that. I have an Astro robot at home.
Oh, yeah, he's listening.
Astro. Oh, God. Looking at me, recording everything I say. Yeah.
And then reporting it back to the motherland.
The state police, obviously.
Yes, in China.
Yeah, but I can watch Netflix while I clean my house. So.
Oh, okay. He follows you around showing you Netflix.
Take it all.
Because that is so important.
Definitely.
I've been thinking about that for a long time. How do I watch?
Everyone has. Yeah.
How do I watch B-rate television shows
while you're showering?
While I'm showering. Yeah, it's so difficult, You
can have, yeah.
That's the thing about technology. It's really, really made life so much better for us.
Yes, solving mysteries of life that improve our quality.
5.13. The 3 Grand Masters. Now, I am not very familiar with this, so I'm gonna. It's 3 pretty big paragraphs. So I think I'm gonna read the first paragraph, and then we'll discuss it, and then I'll read the second one, then I'll read the third one. What do you think about that?
Perfect.
Paragraph number 1 of 5.13 in the Master Mason's Mentoring Manual. Here we go. The 3 Grand Masters. The 3 mentioned so frequently in our ritual concerning the building of the temple are Solomon, king of Israel, Hiram, king of Tyre, and Hiram Abif. These are recorded in the biblical account of the temple building. The coupling of the three names together may have a symbolism inherited from nearly all of the ancient religions. In most of these, the deity was regarded as a triad of Trinity, by whom, acting conjointly, only could anything be done that was done. Let me try that again. In most of these, the deity was regarded as a triad of Trinity, by whom, acting conjointly, only could anything be done that was done. So the point here is that the three of them together, so we had King Solomon, who was the overseer of the entire thing, the most powerful king and wealthiest king of all other kings. Then we had the king of Tyre, and then we have Hiram Abif, his son, and the three of them together. So if you look at the Solomon as the initiator and authority, you look at King Tyre as the actual I don't know. Tell me. I was going somewhere with that, but I'm going to stop myself because it requires. I think it requires a little more thought than that. So I'm going to go back after and kind of think that through. I like where it's going, though.
Well, 3 is an important number in everything
Right.
that involves numbers. And now they're talking about the Trinity, which
Right.
also has religious connotations to it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Because that definitely defines certain religions when you talk about the Trinity, right?
Right. Father, Son, and Holy Spirit would
Yeah.
be the Trinity of the Christian faith.
And so the ties to that faith are obvious.
Mm-hmm.
The ties to geometry and the numberology of the number 3 is important to geometry, which is basically the same thing as Freemasonry. And so these are 3 different aspects of the same person, potentially. You could look at it that way as well. There's a lot to dig into in the symbolism of what these things are. You were going in a direction that would have been more
Towards my faith.
towards your faith.
So, because
right?
that's the way I see
Yeah.
the world.
Because
Everyone
the
sees
Trinity,
the world. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's okay to go there because it's mentioned in the mentor's manual. So
Right.
it almost requires you to talk about it.
Yeah.
When it puts it in writing in the mentor's manual.
It does say here, though, that the coupling of the 3 names together may have a symbolism inherited from nearly all of
Right.
the ancient religions. And you're right. I think the number 3. I mean, it is. If you think about the number 3, right? We are mind, body, and soul.
Right.
Right. So there's 3. Now, technically in Christian doctrine, we are a body soul entity. So we are bodies and souls. We will retain our bodies throughout eternity is part of the Christian doctrine. But that's not all beliefs have that.
You retain the physical body?
Yes, it's resurrected to a physical as it was originally intended. So we have a 1-to-1 correlation, it is said. But this is not a theology show. This is a Masonic show. And anybody out there who's understands Christian doctrine knows exactly what I'm talking about. But I don't have a problem looking at the human condition as mind, body, and soul. Mm-hmm. So the mind is that man behind your forehead, right? That man behind your forehead is the one who controls the body that you're in, and that soul speaks of that afterlife, the life after we are gone. We are 3. That's the 3 entities of the human experience.
Because you're making a distinction between the mind and the soul.
I am making that distinction for the purpose of this conversation. Correct.
I think Freemasonry makes that distinction too.
Agreed. And I have no problem with it.
Yeah. I mean, that's part of what was brought up to me when we were having the conversation about resurrection.
Right. Right. That conversation. Yes.
Was that it's a distinction that's made, and the immortality is of the soul, not of you, the mind, the consciousness, the personality. Right. It was brought to my attention that we talk about the immortality of the soul, which is a different thing. And the body is left behind.
Right.
In the Masonic tradition.
Right. And that was Plato. right? That's where that belief that the body is of no use.
Yeah.
It's evil. It's no good. Do what you want. Doesn't matter. It's going back to the dirt. It's the soul that matters. And that's very Eastern religions speak of that as well. And this is just the differences between the various religions that find themselves within Masonry.
And also of like just linguistics, like the meaning of a certain word and what was meant when it was used in one religious reference, and the same word could be used in another religious reference in a different doctrine and have a slightly different meaning. So it gets very complicated and easy to offend because there's
unfortunately
a lot of landmines that people hold on to really tightly. And so to say a word, they're taking it in their context and not in the context you meant it. So the offense comes pretty quickly.
Yeah, it does.
Being intentional.
And that's unfortunate. I think, and again, I'll go back to what I always say, that one of the reasons why there's so much problems with discussing these things is because most people don't know what they believe and why they believe it. So they get offended by words and stuff just by having conversations with somebody who doesn't believe what they believe, because they're not really able to articulate what they believe, or maybe they don't know, they haven't really thought it through. And that's why I tell everybody, if it's worth believing, then it's worth fully believing. Go and study what you believe and why do you believe it. Ask the question why. Why do I, Fred, the guy talking right now, hold to the Christian faith, the Reformed Christian faith? Well, I can tell you why. I'm not going to tell you why here, but I can clearly articulate it because I've thought it through. I've studied it. I've taken the time to know what I believe and why I believe it. And I'm comfortable. Because of that knowledge, I'm comfortable discussing any religion, any faith, anything with anybody at any time without offense.
I think that's a good citizen of the world.
Right. I agree,
Yeah, because your faith largely is determined on your geography, where you were born. You can tell somebody a place of origin of that person, and you guess, and you probably don't even need 3 guesses. You could get it within 2, what their faith is going to be based on where they were born.
Sure.
It happens. It's the same thing with sports. I was born in Buffalo. I was raised a Buffalo Bills fan.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Bro.
I know. You see how the luck of the draw. It's like, geez, I had to be born in Buffalo. But it's the same thing with religion. And so all I'm saying is that it's wise of us to realize that people don't often choose these things. It's just an inheritance of their birthright as to what, tradition they are. Not always because, for instance, our brother Wade, we know that he wasn't born in a region where you would say, oh, this guy
is a Buddhist.
That's a shock. We got a guy from Florida that's a Buddhist. Huh.
Yeah, right.
But that's because he's educated himself, which is a rare thing. Most people don't do that.
And Wade would tell you that he started out in a Christian faith. I've talked with him before, and he's moved from that to something different. And he and I have had that discussion. And there's it.
Allowing someone to have their faith doesn't invalidate yours.
No, it shouldn't. If you don't know what your faith really is, then that could be a problem for you personally.
Right.
You need to go back and take the time to understand it and dig a little deeper into what it is you believe. Because if you don't know why you believe it, then I don't know if you can believe it because you don't know why. It's just like you said. You could have been raised in it.
Yeah,
exactly. Or it's regional,
or there's been around background noise in your life.
Yeah, or there's some personal benefit. I know people that go to church, big churches, because there's personal benefit to it. They don't really have a faith necessarily. They go there because they benefit personally, and that's that's unfortunate in my opinion for them. They should dig deeper. We should all dig deeper, especially Masons. Come on, guys, we're Masons. We're supposed to be into educating ourselves. We're supposed to be into going down rabbit holes, digging deeper, asking questions, and learning. And people say that Christianity is very narrow because we claim to have the truth, right?
But every faith makes the same claims.
Sure. Everyone is searching for the truth.
Yeah. Right?
That's what spirituality literally means, the search for truth. That's what spirituality means, in search of truth. But it's it's time to move on to a different discussion.
Well, I think that was a fun, good one to have.
Yeah, I think so. I'm not afraid of it. That's for sure. But I think we've made our point. Everybody's like, move on.
That's a Masonic point that is not possible to understate how important it is to have tolerance for the good of humanity and the harmony of us being able to work together as people. You gotta be able to let people be who they are, and whoever they are doesn't affect who you are. So those two things can be together and exist. You can be 100% confident in who you are and what you believe in, and respect the guy next to you who's
Absolutely.
completely different than you.
Yep.
That you might not fully understand at all.
Yeah.
And just respect that he's living his life, and encourage him and support him in his journey.
Yeah. And it's for me the point I was going to finish with is for me it was a search for what is the most plausible explanation for why we are here. And I came to find that
ancient aliens
for Chris, and for me it was the resurrection, and for me everything, and that's a very deep. Some people who don't understand what I just said are probably thinking, well, that's too simplistic. That's dumb. It's not simplistic. It's very, very deep. We're not going to go into that here. But for me, the point is, what is the most plausible explanation? And if you begin to study that, now I spent over 30 years studying that concept, that idea. But if you go into that, then you're going to find out. You're going to find I'm using air quotes here, the truth. But are you open to learning? And I think that's the question. And I am open to learning. I'm open to sit and listen to somebody to convince me otherwise. I have not, as of yet, found anything that does convince me otherwise.
I think that's important to say, because Hiram Abif and the legend and the story of Hiram Abif isn't meant to take the place of the legend and the story of Jesus Christ.
It's
Being
not,
a Mason isn't saying you got to put this story and this guy above what you learned over
It's
here.
supposed to make you better at everything that you do and endeavor to do in your life.
Yes. It is not meant to replace your religious beliefs.
No.
This isn't a real thing. We say it right here in the Mentor's Manual. This is just a legend that was made up to teach a moral lesson. And so being a believer in Jesus who has a similar story, right? And also the Egyptian creation myths have similar stories, and the Jewish and the Muslims have similar stories to the stories that Masonry is telling, but these aren't meant to be real or, worshipped. These are just stories to be told so that you can say and think about what that man did and think about what you would do in that situation. That's the purpose of these stories.
All good lessons throughout history have been told through story. And we as created beings, we love story. Story is what makes learning and makes life good, and that's why we were just talking about the Batman series, and those stories, that story of justice and imperfection. Batman is not a superhero like Superman. He's a man, and he has all this technology, but he has this conflict within him, the Dark Knight, and we love that stuff. Shakespeare. I mean, look at all the writings of Shakespeare and all of the things, the stories of life. And that's how, even in a long time ago, that was they had no digital media. Right. And everything was conveyed through story. I mean, C.S. Lewis is one of the greatest storytellers, in my opinion, ever. And his best friend, J.R. Tolkien, who wrote Lord of the Rings, he was a Roman Catholic. Yeah. And he was his epic. Don't just watch the movies, read the books. And if you're I have a hard time reading novels myself. Yeah, I'm a manual guy. I like reading manuals, but because I'm weird like that. But my wife is an amazing novel reader. She can read through novels, because she loves doing it. But the genius of taking moral lessons and applying them to fictional stories is a great master of that is it's just how we learn. It's how we convey truth.
He had the huge advantage of being a linguist. When you understand the language, you can manipulate it masterfully. Yeah,
and he did. Those stories are absolutely amazing. All right, how about we go to paragraph 2? The secrets known only to our 3 grand masters typify divine truth. known only to this Trinitarian deity and not to be communicated to man, the fellow craft and workman. All right, can I start over, please? The secrets
You're doing so well.
known only to our three grand masters typify divine truth, known only to this Trinitarian deity and not to be communicated to man, the fellow craft and workman, until he, by industry and steadfast purpose, has completed his spiritual temple. Then, according to divine promise, if his temple has had so nobly built is a fit dwelling place for divine truth, the secrets will be communicated to him. With these, the rewards of a well-spent life, the craftsman can travel into that foreign country toward which each of us is journeying. That's a great paragraph. Sorry I messed it up.
Sounds like they're telling the Christian story there.
Well,
really,
there's a lot of similarity.
Yes.
To one of the reasons why, of course, is because the story of Solomon comes out of the scriptures. That's why it keeps referring back to that. I have people ask me all the time, how come Masonry is Masonry a Christian religion? Because it sure refers to the Bible a lot. It's like, no, it's not a Christian religion, but it uses Old Testament and some New Testament scriptures to paint this picture, to tell this story that Freemasonry tells. They find it's found within the old, mainly the Old Testament, is the story of Solomon and his life and his father David.
Well,
Boaz is in there, and all
yes.
of the, they're all in there. It's a beautiful story. But the story of Boaz is found in the book of Ruth is a beautiful story. And that story conveys so much truth. I could get off on a tangent on that particular book. A small little, what some people think, obscure book tells so many beautiful lessons.
Well, if you want to delve into that, come to the Southeast Masonic Education Symposium where Brother Rich Nagy
yes,
will be talking about the widow's son in the book of Ruth. And
Brother Nagy, yes.
Yeah, that's what he's talking about, is that story, where the widow's son came from and how it relates to the book of Ruth.
Yeah.
The meaning of the one shoe.
Right,
all
yeah.
of that kind of ties
I'm
into
really
that
looking
story.
forward to it. Man, he tells a good tale. I mean, he tells a good story, and he's one of those guys that's thought everything out all the way through from beginning to end, which I really enjoy. I'm totally looking forward to that. And I want to apologize to him right now because we just messed up his first name. And when you called him Rick, his first name went right out of my head. John Nagy.
Why
Thank
did I
you.
say Richard Nagy?
I don't know.
Sorry about that.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
I
But
knew
I did.
Nagy.
I remembered it, so we're all good. So, so none of this is to be conveyed to the fellow craft or EA until he, by industry and steadfast purpose, has completed his spiritual temple. Then, according to divine promise, if this temple he has so nobly built is fit for dwelling place for the divine truth, the secrets will be communicated to him. What secrets?
First of all, that whole process that's mentioned there, that's takes a person from the age he's 7 maybe when he becomes an entered apprentice in
Right.
an operative masonry to when he's in his late teens, maybe young manhood, he might
Right.
become
So
a master mason.
if he was brought in at 7 years old and went through the process of 7 years, he'd be 14 years old.
Okay, yeah,
Which
and
is typically what I've been told is kind of how it went.
it makes sense. 7 years. It took 7 years to build the temple, physical temple, and
According to
according to the
scriptures,
stories
correct.
and the Freemason story, they tell the same time. And in reality, we're taking 6 months to get from the entered apprentice to the master mason.
Correct.
So
Right.
you're losing something in the translation. Modern times in the United States, I know in other countries it does take longer and they do work harder, and I'm sure it's far more meaningful when they get there. But for us, we have to realize that we have to work hard to see the meaning behind these things, and
Right.
the journey from entered apprentice to master mason is supposed to be a profound one in your life. You really are supposed to be making drastic changes in your life and to yourself as a person. But in reality, you just spent 6 months doing a bunch of memorization. So
Right. Yeah.
you didn't do the work yet. You didn't build that thing that we're talking about yet. So it might not connect with you in modern times when they talk about these things. But this is why it's so important to sit and think about it.
Right.
Because now you have the rest of your life to think about what that journey should have been for you and to start taking it in reality yourself.
Yeah, because in reality, the fellow craft is raised. He's raised to the sublime degree of Master Mason far too early.
Yeah.
To
6
really,
weeks tops,
right.
probably.
Yeah, I was even less than that. They just, and because
everyone's so excited at that point. You're like, you just went through this disastrously boring section where you're like banging your head against the wall, like, oh God, it's so boring. And you're like, wait. Now you get a new book and you're like, wait, I got this. And you're just so excited. You want to go.
Right.
And everyone else wants you to go too.
And that's why I encourage, and a lot of people have taken my advice, which I'm very happy about, is go back. Mm-hmm. Go back to EA, because, if you go to an EA degree, and you're sitting in the sidelines at an EA degree, what does the worshipful master ask? He asks, is everyone in the room an entered apprentice? Yeah. And the answer is, yeah, everyone is. Well, that's because even as a master mason, you're still an entered apprentice. You're still in that place, and you should still be willing to go back and learn what it means to be an entered apprentice. And then for me, I've left my year-long study of entered apprentice, and I've gone to getting into the fellow craft now. And I've been raised a master mason for quite some time now, but I'm not claiming to know all the truths and all the things that are in there. But I feel like I got a pretty decent grasp on the EA side of it. And now I'll go into fellow craft and try to understand that. I think that's a lifelong study, that one, in my opinion, especially the last, all of it. It is that time in your Mason career where you should be, it's the time of education. It's the time of being imparted, knowledge and education. And I know it's an outline that you're given so that you can take those tools, into the next degree and into the rest of your life. And I think the summation of Master Mason kind of does that. That's the trowel. And that's the impartation of the working tools of a Master Mason are all the tools. Yeah. All the tools that you already have been given. Some you know, some you don't know, but all of them you will be learning. You must be through industry. You must be continuously learning and understanding how to apply them to your life.
Couldn't agree more. And like we were just saying, the average guy is going to go from entered apprentice to Master Mason in 6 months or something very close to that.
Right.
It would be impossible for you to really learn much of what we're talking about in that time frame. So once you're made a Master Mason, that's when the journey starts. So what Fred's doing is what I recommend everyone try to do. Go back to the beginning and spend as much time as you need to working your way through these things until you feel that you have some real working proficiency and understanding of them.
Right.
Deeper, not just what we got in the lectures and in the catechism, but really understanding them for yourself through conversations like this with other brothers.
That's what I have found to be the most helpful is the conversations and real world application.
Yeah.
Applying them. The square of virtue. Well, what does that mean? Well, it means that the square represents virtues. What are the virtues? There's 7 of them. Go find them. Go find the 7 Masonic virtues and study each word and apply them. See where they apply or don't apply to your lives, and you will never forget it. Once that becomes ingrained in your mind and in your practice, you will never forget it, and it will benefit you greatly.
Yeah. The other thing is maybe don't, and everyone will push you once you become a Master Mason to join the appendant body they hang out in the most. Oh, you got to join the Shrine or the Grotto or the York Rite or the Scottish Rite or whatever it is. If you can resist the urge for a little while,
right,
to continue to drink from the fire hose and maybe step back and digest a little before you do, I would recommend it. But most people don't. They just keep going. And when you just keep going, you're getting so much more information, but you didn't really build the foundation so you're not ready to receive all that extra information, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's that quickly. They all need members, so, join. I'm not saying don't, but just think about that. Just think about that, you're a Master Mason in title, but you're not a Master Mason in experience yet.
Right.
And the only way you're going to be that way is to learn it. So for me, Fred's doing it in an intellectual way and go back and reading and studying. For me, I started the memorization. So I was like, if I memorize all this stuff, I'll know it better.
Right. It's true.
And it helped because, like lectures especially, it goes into great detail about the things in the degree. And I didn't understand much of it. So I had to Google things and went down many rabbit holes in the process of memorizing that stuff. So for me, that's how I dug into it all, was memorization. And then when I went to the next thing, I started doing the same thing there. In the Scottish Rite, I got into degrees and started learning about the Egyptian myths, because I was in the Egyptian degree. And you learn about how they measured the soul in the afterlife, and the moral lessons around the Egyptian myths, and also the chivalric myths and all the other stuff that happens in those appendant bodies. And you really are becoming a well-rounded person at that point. But if you go too fast, I feel like you lose the forest for the trees a little bit. So
Right.
recommendation is to try to slow down slightly. And if you're going to become an officer in the Blue Lodge, that you're basically guaranteed 5 to 7 years, which is plenty of time to delve into this stuff and become really proficient before you're the master of the lodge.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Because being active in Blue Lodge is being active in learning the degrees, is learning the craft, is learning what it understands. It's a social club. We have a lot of social fun, and I absolutely enjoy hanging out with my brothers and all that entails. But if you're not doing the work within the Blue Lodge, then I think you're missing out. I was going to say, you're making a huge mistake. I don't know if that's true. Maybe you are, but you're certainly missing out on all the benefits that you could be getting from it. There are appendant bodies for having fun, man. We're grown men and we're Masons. We know how to party, baby. We know how to do it, and our appendant bodies are evidence of that. But the Blue Lodge, and a lot of the appendant bodies will tell you, that's a place where we're serious. We're more serious there. That's the place to be more serious, to be more thoughtful, and to educate yourself. Let's try this last paragraph. You ready?
Yeah.
All right, last paragraph. The rich symbolism outlined will make the frequent mention of the names and references to their office in our ritual understandable. Man is ever reaching outward and upward, seeking for a further knowledge of God and man's relationship with him, which is divine truth.
There you go.
So the symbolisms, we're currently in the section called the Three Grand Masters, and the symbolism of Solomon, Hiram, King of Tyre, and Hiram Abif, that's the symbolism outlined, will make the frequent mention of the names and references to their offices in our ritual understandable. Man is ever reaching outward and upward, seeking for a further knowledge of God and man's relations with him, which is divine truth.
Mm-hmm.
That's a heck of a statement, man.
It's kind of what we were just saying. Like, everyone wants to get to the mystery, or they just want someone to give them the answer. But the unfortunate fact is, you've got to dig and find it for yourself.
Yeah, that's right. No one can give you the answer. I think if I could, I probably would impart some sort of knowledge, bang, right into your head, download a bunch of knowledge in your head. That's not possible, though.
Right, like assimilating the Borg, like, boom, there you go, now you're one of the collective. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, that's Star Trek, yeah.
Yeah, you can't
Next
just
generation.
do that. You've got to actually study and experiment and make mistakes and grow as a person. And use the tools, the working tools, to try to help you along the way, and your brothers and their experience. But, even if you do the same things at the same times, at the same age, you're going to have a different outcome than another brother, because he's a different person than you, and you have a different people in your life. So there's no one way. There's no right way. But the only given constant is study and educate yourself. That will lead to improvement, whether it's big or small in your life. Doing the things we're doing right now will help you get better. So if you're not having these esoteric discussion groups, which is kind of what we call a podcast here, or like what we were trying to do in our lodge, or we're going to try to do in my house, like keep trying and keep going to support other people that are trying.
Right.
This is like really the highest work that you can do. This is us working in the quarry together.
Yeah, that's right. That's
Basically.
right. We're building the temple.
Sharpening our tools, learning how to use these things. And
What they are, what they mean.
working together towards a common goal, which is the betterment of ourselves and our lodges and our communities.
Yeah, that's it. That's the practical application of the craft, within our lives. Outside the walls of the Blue Lodge, is it changing my life? Am I a better husband today because of Masonry? My wife would say yes. Am I a better employee? I don't know. I'm not a great employee. I'm a little too independent. I've owned too many of my own businesses, but I'm working on it. I'm getting better and better. I have my own ideas, and employers don't like that. But anyway, but again, the tools of Masonry are helping me to realize that and to make some changes, thereof. One of them is, well, we'll talk about that later at another podcast. But anyway,
right.
So next week, I think it's a good place to stop, is the Temple of Solomon and the significance of the symbolism with the Temple of Solomon. It's a pretty robust chapter. It's actually 2 chapters, the physical chapters, the physical temple, and then the symbolism of the temple, and then Solomon, the king of Israel, is all kind of one whole episode, the way I see it here. So, and that's going to be next time. And then it breaks us out into the different aspects of the actual degree, and a lot of it is real short little blurbs because there's not a lot you can talk about on a podcast about
we
that.
can find a way to talk about it.
We can find a way. Yeah, there's always a way. That's right. So, brother, what's going on in your life, man? How is things going on in Chris's palatial world?
My world isn't palatial. It's going. I feel like I'm caught in a tempest. I'm the master of our lodge.
Yes.
I do own my own business here. I've
Yes.
got like 19 employees and 190 clients. And I'm the president of the Scottish Rite Club. I'm the president of the Master Mason Association. And I did this to myself. So I'm not looking for sympathy. I did it to myself. But I'm being tested this year. I can feel that.
Yes.
I can feel that.
Yes.
And I am doing my very best.
He's doing a great job,
To-
folks. Just
to-
going to say that out loud.
Rise to the occasion in each individual circumstance and hopefully make it through the other side. But that's the world I'm in this year, and we're doing this. And now we're doing public speaking, which, as you know, is basically the kryptonite to my Superman.
Well, it was.
It is something that I struggle with, and so that pressure on top of everything else is just making for a fantastical year. This weekend we'll be at my house, hopefully with brothers from at least 3, maybe 4 lodges, maybe more.
Yeah,
in
I'm
our
being
district.
told it's going to be quite a crowd.
Whether it's big or not, I'm just
Nah,
excited
that
to
doesn't
have
matter.
at least one guy from each place so
Absolutely.
that we can go back to our lodges and share this stuff. That's kind of why we're doing it.
Yep.
But we have events in the lodge. We've got like 6 charity events we're doing this year, which is crazy.
Right.
We've already done 2 with a Phoenix Lodge, and they're planning another one with them.
Right. Now,
separate from our
can we
6.
call Phoenix Lodge our sister lodge because we're in the same
Oh.
town? We're right. You could throw a stone over to their place. They're as close as they are. So
Technically, they're our little brother. I
Little
think.
Brother Lodge.
Yeah.
Okay. They're
Yeah,
going to
yeah.
appreciate that one.
Well, it is just like we came from Manatee Lodge.
That's
I
true. That's true.
But
Yeah.
Venice and everyone south of us came from us.
Okay. All right.
And Phoenix and Builders Lodge came
That's
from us.
send your emails to Chris.
It's a true
at-
story.
No, it's
story.
true. It's totally true.
We
It's totally
had
true.
to give permission for them to get their charters from the Grand Lodge.
Well, what I see, and going back to what you're talking about in your life, and you certainly are. I see all that you're doing,
Yeah.
and I see how you're doing it, and you do have this head down working attitude. I can
don't
tell.
really have time for anything
Yeah,
else.
and I appreciate that. Here we are. We're middle of April, so we're in the middle of your 3.5 months as worshipful master. I think it's going really well.
4.5 now.
Yeah, 4.5.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, 4.5 months.
Yeah. Grand Lodge is coming up.
And Grand Lodge is coming up here next
5
month.
solid months.
That'll be
that.
five solid months. So I think you're doing really well with all that you've got going. And we're not halfway through it yet.
Nice of you to say. Thank you.
Well, I watch people, and I pay attention to that kind of stuff.
Well, you see a lot more than most.
Yeah, I do. I agree. So I'm
You're kind of
sworn
there
to
for a lot of
secrecy
it.
on most of it. Just kidding. Kinda, sorta.
Well, what's odd is because Fred is the Tyler in our lodge. So this year I'm the master and he's the Tyler, and we spend a lot of time together here talking about stuff.
Right.
And it's funny because in lodge something will happen during a staged meeting, which triggers a thought about something we talked about in the podcast.
Right.
And I can't even look at you for acknowledgement that I recognized it because you're not in the lodge room. I don't like that.
I don't like it. I've said it before. I serve as Tyler because I was asked, but I don't love it.
That's my fault. I asked him to be my Tyler this year.
I serve at the pleasure of the worshipful master, and I do it gratefully. But I don't love it because I love being in there.
Yeah,
I love being in there. And technically, I'm really not supposed to be Tyler. Tylers
Right.
are supposed to be past masters.
We have a shortage of those
And we have
in our lodge.
we have a shortage of those in our lodge who are willing to take it on.
Correct.
We don't have a
Correct.
shortage of past masters in our lodge. We've got lots of those.
Yes, we didn't have any past masters that wanted to serve
As
like
Tyler.
that.
Right. So I stepped up. I don't mind. I'll do it. I don't love it. I want to be in there with my brothers, but I do it
want
as
you
an
to be
act
in
of
there with
service.
us. You know, a lot of lodges just lock the door and let the Tyler come in because no one can get in anyways.
Well, that's what we do. I mean,
Yeah.
but you can't
We should do that more.
you can't be in from beginning to end.
Right.
You know, you can't because you have to be out to be called in, and you have to be, you got to get out of there when they close the lodge and stuff. So we have the cues. Me and the senior deacon have all the cues correct.
Okay,
so
good.
I can come in at the right time, sit in my Tyler's chair. We put a Tyler's chair in the lodge.
It's pretty epic.
It's a pretty epic chair, and then I can excuse myself properly and Masonically at the right time for him to do his job to close out the lodge. So it works out good. I get to be in for most of it, but a lot of memory stuff. You go through the line. And you know this stuff because you've heard it so many times. And you sit in there and you hear the openings and you hear everything over and over again. And after a while, you just know it. You study it, you hear it, you kind of participate in it. And that's one of the reasons why by 5 years in, you know all this stuff so well. And I feel like as a Tyler who shouldn't be a Tyler, because I have not done all of that for years and years, it's a bit of a disadvantage for me and the lodge. But I do it to serve the worshipful master, whom I have great respect for, and I do so diligently. So as for me, in my life, I've had some interesting things go on of late.
Yes. Do you want to talk about any of it?
Briefly.
Okay.
And I want to end. I want to kind of end with this. Now, some of you out there may know, and most of you don't know. On Friday morning at about 4 a.m., I was woken up to my wife sitting at the edge of the bed, just having trouble breathing. And she'd not been feeling well the entire week, so we were kind of watching and figured she was sick because I currently have the cold she had. So I just figured she was sick. Well, she was complaining of pressure, chest pain pressure, and indigestion. And then she said the magic word, and I feel major tingling down my left arm. I was like, you got to be kidding me, man. So I rushed her to the emergency room at the hospital right up the street from us, and it turns out that she was having a heart attack. And not just a small one. It was the prelude to a major one. And I was like, we got in the hospital. They did the quick AKG thing that they do. And the next thing I know, two of the top cardiologists in the hospital were in the room, anxiously getting the information to us so that they could get her upstairs into the operating room. So that's exactly what happened. They found that the main artery in her heart, which is called the widowmaker, this would have been the widower maker, was 99.4% blocked with a 60% blockage about an inch down from it. So she was 5 hours from a massive cardiac event, which there's probably she would not have come back from. So it was absolutely shocking in every way to me. And it was just like, and I'm a health nut. And I drive my wife crazy with my health escapades. Make no mistake, special diets and supplements and exercise, and it goes on and on. I've been doing it for about 10 years now. And I know it. I know my stuff. And it shows. I can show you my blood work. I have the blood work of a 35-year-old, and I'm 60. But anyways, so shocker to the max. She's home now. She's stable. All is good. She's got to change her life, and part of it was because she's a singer, a professional singer in a musical group, and they spend a lot of time in bars and in night, doing nightlife and smoking and drinking and eating bad food and stuff. And when you're pushing 58 years old, you can't do that, man. You can't do it. And it came to a head for her. So I bring it up to say a couple of things very quickly. One, anybody out there who is taking for granted the time they have on this earth, I recommend you quit that shit right now and take a good look in the mirror, like what I did and like what my wife is currently doing, and figure out what's important to you, what really matters to you. And because if you think you're going to be here tomorrow to get that thing done, you have no guarantee of that, man. You just don't have a guarantee. Anything can happen to you. If you would have looked at my wife a month ago, you would have thought she was a picture of health. You would have thought, man, there's somebody who's really got it going on. She sings in a band and everybody loves her. Tons and tons of friends.
High energy. High
energy. Just looking great, feeling great, looking good. A month later, 5 hours away from dying of a heart attack. So that's the one thing I want to share with my brothers out there. You are not promised another day. You are not promised another day. You have today. So whatever it is that you want to do, whatever it is you should do it. Get it done. Get it started, and get on it.
So this just happened to you guys last Friday, you said?
Last Friday.
Last Friday.
Yep.
And we're recording this Tuesday morning.
Tuesday morning.
You've had 3 days to sit with this?
I've had 3 days.
How's it impacted you guys?
Well, she's learning that, I think the reality is setting in, having to come to terms with a pack-a-day smoker who can now never, ever smoke again for any reason has become a major issue for her. But, it just is what it is. Smoke and die or live. We've got grandchildren. She's got, we got children, 6 children. So you want to live? Then you're going to have to change all these things. So that's the impact for her. For me, I started out kind of angry. I went through I was a little angry.
Because it was
like, this is
mind.
Completely,
Yeah.
I don't know if it's completely preventable, but this was preventable. This
steps
didn't have
could
to
have been
happen.
taken in your mind. Like, you didn't take multiple steps that could have potentially
Right.
this.
And I had to be careful not to be a jerk about it too, because I'm the sergeant when it comes to good health. I'm Captain Good Health here. So, and well, I told you should have listened to me. I told all that stuff, but I didn't do any of that. That's not helpful. But then I've come to realize that the human creatures are odd. You can be shown very clearly that if you continue this behavior, you'll die. So stop. And they don't. It happens all the time.
Sure.
So we're an odd creature. So I don't know. I guess I could bring this back to the principles of Freemasonry. Of virtue and of industriousness and of being a good man and making yourself better and doing all of these things. And the other thing that I want to share, and I'll close out with this, is health and fitness matters, guys. And I know a lot of Masons out there that are not healthy.
You and I know because we travel. We traveled other lodges. We've been outside our district.
Yeah.
You're going to now see a lot of Masons from all over the state soon.
Right.
We generally are not in good shape.
No, it's true.
It's
really true.
And we joke about it. We're like, get the gravy and mashed potatoes, get them to come to
donuts,
dinner. And
man.
all this
Ooh,
stuff.
donuts. Give me more donuts. Right.
But in reality, at our age, because we are generally older, we should definitely be talking a lot more about eating right. I mean, this has to be part of being a good person, is respecting your own body, right?
It absolutely is. Gluttony
Exercise.
would be one of those negative vices, right? And the superfluidities, excessive gluttony, laziness. These are the vices and superfluities we're supposed to be taking away. And look, if you're out there and you're struggling with your weight and you're struggling with your health, do not take this as me beating you over the head. I am not, brother. I know how hard it is. I was a type 2 diabetic 10 years ago. I was dying, man. It was bad. And I overcame it through diet and exercise. And it took me a long time to do so and to discipline myself in doing it. But I would encourage everyone listening to take a look at your health, where you're at, your health. Look, if you're 25 years old and you're pounding donuts, so what? Go for it.
I mean, it's going to catch up to you.
It will catch up to you, but if you're 25, you can do it. If you're 35 and you're still doing it, well, then we need to talk. But once you're at 35,
75, I guess go ahead and do it.
I would say
again.
I would say if you're 35 years old or older, it's probably time to start setting some habits in place that you don't have to struggle with. The older you get, the harder it is to change these things. And one of the things, if you're smoking cigarettes every day, I have a brother who used to be Tyler in our lodge who will tell you to quit right now, and that would be Brother Dan.
Yeah.
So quit smoking. Whatever you got to do. If you've been thinking about it,
was he a smoker?
He was. Give it up. He is, or he was a smoker, but he still is. He's
I didn't
still
mean to
with
talk
us.
about
Right.
him in the past tense.
Right.
The habit. I didn't know
he
was
had
a
to
smoker.
stop. He had to stop. He has lung cancer. So yeah.
I thought it was bone.
Well, the cancer. Let's not talk about him.
Gotcha.
That's not fair. But anyways, quit if you can. Find a way to quit. Find a way to get healthy. Take an assessment of your status currently with regard to your health and make some decisions. Make some small steps, small decisions. Get some help. There's a lot of helps out there, apps. You could get counseling. You could whatever it takes. But get healthy, man. Get healthy and live your life in optimal health. I do, and I don't regret it. I don't regret any of it. And it's been a long, hard journey for me, but I don't regret it at all. And I hope that everybody within the sound of my voice will just take a minute to evaluate, where am I at? Do I want to be around for my grandchildren? Do I want to be healthy? Do I want to be the grandpa that's vibrant and healthy?
Yeah.
And cogent? If that's the guy you want to be, I asked myself at 50 years old, what do I want to look like at 60? And I got this advice from Dr. Peter Attia, who does a health assessment, and that's one of his big things. He said, if you're 40 years old, ask yourself, what do I want to look like when I'm 50? And what do I have to do for the next 10 years to make it happen? And I said to myself, when I'm 60, I want to look like I'm 50. I want to look and feel like I'm 50. And I went ahead and I did those things that were necessary to get to that point. And people ask me all the time when I tell them I'm 60 years old, they don't believe me. They absolutely don't believe me because
I don't believe it.
It's true.
You've been
I am
lying to me this whole time.
1962. That was
Still
the
haven't
year.
seen a driver's license or birth certificate to prove it.
So, anyways, that's my spiel, my brothers. I tell you this because I love you. I care about you. I care about our craft. I want it to keep going, and I want you to be a part of it keeping going. And I want everybody to take that assessment. I'm not trying to offend anybody or depress anybody. I'm trying to encourage you.
It's another part of being a good, working on yourself.
Yeah.
If we're going to be an example, we want people to look at us and want to be like us. This should be part of the discussion.
Right. And there's just something good about getting on the other side of a health issue or getting on the other side of a vice, that you've got to give up. If you can get on the other side of it and enjoy it, the fact that you don't do that anymore. For me, working out and being, out there doing a workout, whatever it is, whether it's weightlifting or doing some of the outdoor ruck runs that I've developed, all that kind of stuff, man, it is a joy and I love it. And you could too. Anyways, I'm going to stop beating the heck out of that. Chris, you got anything else as we go out into our week?
No, you're going to be listening to this on Wednesday, hopefully morning. We are going to be just 1 month outside of Grand Lodge.
Yeah.
And we just want to remind you, if you can make it to the Southeast Masonic Education Symposium at Hillsborough Lodge on April 29th, On the Level with Fred and Chris will be there. Fred and Chris are speaking in the keynote position. The other speakers are doing a lot of historical, fun, interesting speaking.
Yeah, it's gonna be
that
good
day, and we're gonna come in at the end with Freemasonry. What now?
What now, baby? What do I take back to my lodge to make my lodge go further? What do I do to make this happen?
We will be trying to talk about the things that are preventing you from growing and the things that you can do if you have active participants to help you grow. Some of it we've talked about on this podcast. Probably all of it we have.
Probably.
And then there's going to be a Q&A, and I think there's going to be a panel where we'll sit down also, and you can ask us anything. That'll be fun if you've ever
Doesn't mean we're going to
know.
answer everything, but you can ask us anything.
Chris will answer literally anything, especially if it's about Fred, and tell you the truth.
So the first question I'm going to have for Chris is, are you wearing clean underwear?
And the answer will be, no, I am commando. Today, probably that day, that'll be a different answer. But literally, you can ask us anything. We'll be there. We're going to have a little table. We do have some shirts and hats now that we're selling to help.
Got a little merch. Got a little merch going, man. Pretty excited about the merch.
The podcasting bills here for us.
Yeah.
And then we'll be at Grand Lodge. Hopefully Sunday night we'll be doing some interviews. Definitely Monday.
Yeah.
The legislation is happening Tuesday, so I imagine Tuesday is going to be pretty busy, and then I have to get out of there after. But if you can find us, you can email us actually at Chris at On the Level with Fred and Chris,
or Fred at onthelevelwithfredandchris.com.
Email us. Let's schedule something. If we can schedule it in advance, we can guarantee it'll happen.
Yeah.
But if you aren't thinking ahead or don't want to schedule, just come by the booth. And if we have the recording gear out and we happen to be recording, you might be able to just jump on with us.
Yeah, we'd like to get a couple of spots of just listeners, and just get your thoughts, find out who you are, where you're from, why you listen to the show, and all that kind of stuff. We'd love to get a bunch of that B-roll onto our server so we can use it going forward. Yeah, for sure.
Yes. So we have a lot going on in the next couple months, and we're real excited. This Saturday at my house, we're doing a little esoteric discussion.
Esoteric discussion group. Wow.
Honestly, if that goes well and it lends itself to doing this, we could bring in some recording equipment and potentially record those kind of discussions as well.
Yeah, and
in the future.
I find that the need and the desire and need for that is huge. So I'm not opposed to putting together some kind of easy format and getting it out there to all the lodges. You could just email us and we can just send you our format, and we could help you to host your own, and to how to do it, and the topics and how to keep it moving forward and stuff. And we'll record a few so you can see how we do it. Mm-hmm. I guarantee you that Saturday night is going to be a lively discussion. There is no doubt in my mind that we are going to have an absolute riot. And it's going to be a lot of fun, and people are going to want more and more of it because, like we said during this podcast and other podcasts, we've all been kind of rushed through the degrees these days. It just happens. It's the way it is, and therefore, a lot of people, even worshipful masters and people who are way up in the line, are hungry for this stuff, and I don't blame them. I am too. So that's what this kind of stuff is about. That's what this podcast is about. That's what we do every week here. So, and that's what you guys are saying you want more of. So bring it on. Let's get it on.
You know what else happened this past week? We got some comments from a brother on Facebook who said he keeps going back over and over and listening to the episode where you talked about your personal stuff.
Oh, the baggage. Yeah,
the
baggage.
Episode. And then he saw the YouTube video. He was like, whoa, and his mind was blown. People like to learn more about you.
About me? Oh,
yeah,
God.
yeah. I think that guy connects, and he's listened to it over and over again. So see, we don't get much feedback, so that kind of feedback is incredibly helpful.
Yeah, that's real helpful. And I just responded back to that brother this morning, just to encourage him going forward. And I'm trying to respond back to the emails as quickly as I can. I generally, at this point, it's like a once a week thing. I open it up and there's 20 of them on there, and I answer them accordingly. So that's it, my brother.
Yes.
Worshipful Burns.
Yes.
This is episode. I guess this will be episode 4.
Yes.
Lessons of Master Mason, episode 4. Pretty excited about that. We started out thinking there'd be 4 total. I'm thinking there's going to be 6.
Yeah.
But we're just going to keep going until we know what it is, and after that, we'll probably lead right into Grand Lodge, and then after Grand Lodge, look for season 2. We'll do some upgrades to our intros and the way we do things. Hopefully. Probably have some sponsorships. There's some people lining up that want to sponsor. I'm pretty excited about that. Don't know how to do that yet, but we'll get it done. And then we're going to have a merch store, and we're bringing on a partner, an associate producer. His name is John Schaefer, and I'm pretty excited for John to come on board and help out with the podcast. He brings a lot of really strong back end help. So he thrives on that back end kind of work and stuff. So, and we need that because Chris and I are big thinkers, and big thinkers don't like doing back end work. So that's going to be helpful.
Say. I'm a big thinker. I don't.
That's right.
Okay.
I can't do them dishes. I'm a big thinker.
Right.
Yeah. So, anyways, all right, my brother. I think we're out. I know we're out. We're at a minute 45, so hour 45. So that's our longest show ever. You guys have been asking for long shows. Well, here you go. So my brother, until next time, I will see you then, huh? See you all.
See you on the level.